Welcome, wanderers of the shadowed vale, to Throne of Nightmares. Here in the velvet choke of midnight, we do not chase ghosts. They chase us. We unearth the bones of stories long buried, where the air tastes of rust and regret, and every vow whispered in candlelight curdles into a curse. Tonight, we descend into a tale that marries love to murder, fidelity to venom, and eternity to the grave. Picture it, a grand estate on the fog-shrouded cliffs of Cornwall, England, in the dying gasp of the 19th century. The year is 1892, when gas lamps flickered like dying stars against the relentless Atlantic gale. The house, Blackthorn Manor, clings to the earth like a fevered hand, its turrets twisted as if screaming into the storm. Ivy strangles the stone walls, black and brittle, whispering secrets to the wind. And on this night, beneath a moon bloated with malice, a wedding unfolds or unravels. The bride, Eliza Hawthorne, glides through the halls like a porcelain spectre, pale skin glowing under the chandelier's jaundice light, her gown a cascade of ivory silk that rustles like dry leaves over a coffin, her eyes wide and doe-like, hold the innocence of a girl who dreams of hearth and hares, unaware that her future husband harbors a heart poisoned long before the chalice. The groom, Theodore Blackwood, stands tall and severe in his tailored black frock coat, his face a mask of aristocratic poise, high cheekbones sharp as raven's wings, lips curled in a smile that never reaches his storm-grey eyes. He is the last scion of the Blackwood line, a family whispered about in taverns from London to Land's End. Cursed with barren wombs and bastard ambitions, their fortunes built on the salt trade, but stained with the blood of drowned sailors. And then there is her, the bridesmaid, Leila Voss. Oh, how the name slithers off the tongue like arsenic in absinthe. She is the shadow to Eliza's light, raven hair pinned in loose coils that beg to be undone, skin like cream kissed by moonlight, and eyes green as the venomous heart of a yew tree. Leila is Eliza's cousin, imported from the wild moors of Dartmoor, where the hags still dance under blood moons. She arrived 3 weeks prior, her trunks heavy with secrets and her laughter a melody that twisted Theodore's soul like a knife in the gut. It begins, as all horrors do, with a glance. Across the rehearsal dinner table, amid crystal goblets clinking like bones, Theodore's gaze locks on Leila's. The room fades, the clatter of silver, the murmur of aunts in ostrich plumes, until there is only her. The curve of her neck as she tilts her head, the flicker of her tongue against her lower lip as she sips her wine. In that moment, the vows he swore to Eliza dissolve like sugar in poison. He sees not a bridesmaid, but a siren calling him from the wreckage of his betrothal. But Blackthorn Manor is no mere house. It is a labyrinth of locked chambers and ancestral portraits whose eyes follow you down the halls. The air here is thick with the scent of sea salt and something fouler, rot perhaps, from the cellars where the Blackwoods once stored their contraband rum laced with opium. As the guests retire, the storm outside builds, thunder rolling like the growl of a jilted lover. Theodore slips from his bedchamber, the floorboards groaning under his boots like accusations. He finds Leila in the conservatory, bathed in the silver bleed of moonlight through shattered panes. She stands amid wilted orchids, her fingers tracing the thorns of a black rose. Theodore, she breathes, her voice a caress wrapped in fog. This place, it hungers. He steps closer, the space between them crackling like a live wire. "As do I," he confesses, his hand brushing hers. Skin on skin, electric as sin. They speak in whispers of escape, of fleeing this crumbling empire, of sailing to the Indies where no Blackwood curse can reach. But vows are chains and Eliza is the lock. She must be released. Theodore murmurs, his mind already turning to the apothecary's vials hidden in his study. Belladonna, perhaps, or the subtle kiss of strychnine. Leila's eyes gleam, not with horror, but with a feral hunger that mirrors his own. Then let us brew the draught that sets us free. The hook sinks deep now, doesn't it, dear listener? A wedding veiled in white, but stained with the promise of red. What vows were spoken in the shadows of Blackthorn that night? What poison bloomed in the bridal bouquet? Stay with me as we peel back the lace, layer by festering layer, to reveal the rot beneath. For in deadly vows love is not blind. It is the blindfold over the executioner's eyes. Her pause. The violin swells, a dirge that pulls at the heartstrings like fingers from the grave. But before we plunge into the abyss, let us linger here a moment longer, in the threshold gloom. Feel the chill seep into your bones, the way the fog from the cliffs curls around your ankles like spectral hounds. This is no fairy tale of glass slippers and pumpkin coaches. This is the nightmare of taffeta and toxin, where till death do us part arrives not fashionably late, but with the punctuality of a hangman's noose. Theodore Blackwood, heir to shadows, plots not just escape, but erasure. Leela Voss, the temptress with more witch blood, fans the flames of his desperation, and Eliza, poor unwitting Eliza. She dances on the edge of her own grave, her laughter echoing like the toll of a funeral bell. Imagine the manor at dawn. The sun struggles through the mist, painting the world in hues of bruised plum and ash. Servants scurry like rats, polishing silver that will soon taste of betrayal. In the kitchens, the cook, a stout woman named Mrs. Grimshaw, her face etched with the lines of too many winters, prepares the wedding feast. Pheasant glazed in honey, aspics quivering like frightened hearts, and wine from cellars deep as tombs. Unseen, Theodore slips in, his pockets heavy with crystalline death. A pinch here in the bride's morning tea, a drop there in the cordial for the toast. His hands tremble not from fear, but from the thrill of creation, the alchemy of ending. As the clock strikes noon, the carriage arrives, bearing Eliza from her family's modest vicarage. She steps down, radiant, her veil a gossamer shroud. "O Theodore," she sighs, pressing a posy of lilies into his palm. Lilies, symbols of purity, but also of funerals. He smiles, tucking the flowers into his lapel, where they wilt against his heart. Leela watches from the window, her reflection superimposed over the scene like a ghost haunting the living. Jealousy? No. Anticipation. For in her veins courses the blood of those who poisoned kings and cursed queens, and tonight she will claim her throne. The ceremony looms. The church on the cliffs, a squat edifice of grey stone, its bells tolling like warnings ignored. Guests arrive in a procession of landos and bronze, their finery rustling like dry wings. Aunts with monocles and uncles with mutton chops gossip of the Blackwood dore. The ships, the mines, the whispers of madness. A fine match, they murmur, clinking champagne flutes that fizz like suppressed screams. But beneath the bonhomie, the air thickens with unease. A raven perches on the steeple, its cry a jagged tear in the sky. A child in the pews whimpers, pointing at shadows that slither along the walls. "And you, listener, you feel it too, don't you?" That prickle at the nape, the sense that eyes unseen watch from the cracks in reality. This is the prelude to perdition, the calm before the chalice tips. Join me now, as we cross the threshold into the heart of the venom. For the vows are spoken, the rings exchanged, but death, oh death, has already RSVP'd. The doors have saned. Old Elm's chapel swing open on iron hinges that screech like the damned. Sunlight spears through the stained glass saints, painting the aisle in fractured crimson and sapphire, colors of blood and drowned skies. Eliza Hawthorne steps forward, her arm looped through her father's, the vicar whose sermons once thundered against the sins of the flesh. He is a frail man, bent like a shepherd's crook, his eyes watery with pride and port. "My girl," he whispers, "to a life of grace." If only he knew the grace was laced with gall. Theodore waits at the altar, his posture rigid as a gravestone. His best man, a cousin named Reginald, ruddy-cheeked and fox-hunting, oblivious to the serpent in their midst, claps him on the back. "Steady on, old chap. She's a vision." Theodore nods, his smile a rictus, his mind a whirlwind of calculations, the dose in the vinaigrette at luncheon, the extra vial concealed in his prayer book. Leela stands to the side, resplendent in emerald taffeta that hugs her like a lover's grip, her bouquet of nightshade and foxglove a subtle mockery of the bridal posy. Her gaze meets Theodore's over Eliza's veil, a spark, a promise, a pact sealed in silence. The vicar begins, his voice quivering like candle flame in draught. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here in the sight of God and this company." The words drone on, binding them in holy knots. Eliza's breath comes quick, her bosom rising beneath lace like waves against a cliff. She vows first to love, honor, and obey in sickness and in health, till death do us part. Her voice is a lark's song, pure and piercing. Theodore echoes her, but his tone is velvet over steel. Till death, the ring slides onto her finger, gold warmed by his skin, but cold as the sea that claimed his forebears. The kiss is chaste, a brush of lips like moth wings on glass. The congregation erupts in polite applause, but the raven outside caws once, sharply, as if mocking the merriment. Back at Blackthorn Manor, the wedding breakfast unfolds in the grand dining hall, a cavern of oak beams and tapestries depicting hunts where the prey always bleeds. Tables groan under silver salvers, terrines of foie gras, platters of roast venison dripping ruby juices, tiered cakes frosted in sugar veils that mimic Eliza's own. The air is heady with perfumes, jasmine and musk, and the underlying brine of the ocean seeping through cracked windows. Seated at the high table, Eliza beams, her cheeks flushed with champagne bubbles. "Husband," she toasts, clinking her glass to Theodore's. The word hangs sweet on her tongue, but he sees the chalice's rim as a guillotine's edge. "To our future," she says. He mirrors her. "To freedom." Leela, seated nearby, sips her wine slowly, her eyes hooded like a cobra's. She has her own secrets. A locket at her throat containing a curl of her mother's hair, poisoned in childbirth by a jealous midwife. The Voss women, they say, carry the gift of the green-eyed glance to see the truth in a man's soul and twist it to their will. As the afternoon wanes, the games begin. Archaic rituals to warm the bed, as the dowagers cackle. Charades in the drawing room, where guests mime forgotten scandals, croquet on the lawn, mullets cracking like bones under sodden grass. Theodore excuses himself, claiming a headache from the excitement. He retreats to his study, a sanctum of leather, bound tomes and brass astrolabes, the walls lined with maps of trade routes to shadowed ports. From a locked drawer, he retrieves the fales clear as tears, deadly as daggers. Ricin from castor beans, harvested in the manor's forbidden garden, a tincture of aconite, Monkshood's blue kiss. He measures with a steady hand, the drops falling like clock ticks into a decanter of claret reserved for the evening's private toast. Meanwhile, Leela corners Eliza in the powder room, mirrors fogged with laughter and powder puffs. "Darling cousin," Leela purrs, adjusting Eliza's pearls, strands that once adorned a Blackwood ancestress who drowned her rivals in the bath. "Marriage suits you. But tell me," does Theodore whisper sweet nothings in the dark. Eliza blushes, fanning herself with a lace handkerchief. He is reserved, but his letters were poetry. Leela's laugh is a chime of bells, clear, but with a dissonant edge. Poetry. Men like him write in blood. She leans in, her breath warm against Eliza's ear. "If ever you need a confidante, I am here." Blood calls to blood. Eliza nods, touched, unaware that the confidante plots her pallor. Dusk falls like a shroud, the sky bruising to indigo. Guests depart in a flurry of curtsies and handshakes, carriages vanishing into the mist like phantoms. The manor empties, leaving only the newlyweds, Leela insisting on staying to help settle, and a skeleton staff who melt into shadows. Dinner is intimate, candlelight dancing on silver, the fire in the grate crackling like suppressed confessions. Mrs. Grimshaw serves the courses. Oysters on ice that weep like eyes, lamb in rosemary that masks the metallic tang of the laced sauce. Eliza picks at her plate, her appetite dimmed by nerves. "The sea is so wild tonight," she murmurs, glancing at the windows where rain lashes like fingers scraping glass. Theodore pours the claret, his hand steady as a surgeon's. "To us, my love," they drink, the wine velvet on the tongue, blooming warmth in the belly. Leela watches, her fork tracing patterns in her untouched soup, symbols from old grimoires, wards against the backlash of blood magic. Conversation flows, dreams of children, Eliza's eyes light with hope. Voyages to reclaim the family fleet, Theodore's voice hardens with ambition. But beneath, tension coils like a spring. Eliza's laughter falters once, a hand to her throat as if the vows choke her. "Just the wine." She waves off, smiling wanly. As midnight nears, the couple retires to the bridal chamber, a vast room with a poster bed swathed in damask, the canopy like a funeral pall. Theodore assists Eliza with her gown, fingers lingering on the laces, but his mind is on the door across the hall, where Leela waits in candlelit vigil. "Sleep well, wife," he whispers, pressing a kiss to her brow. Cold as the poison now stirring in her veins, she drifts into slumber, her breath shallowing like a tide receding. Alone in the corridor, Theodore's facade cracks. He paces, sweat beading on his brow despite the chill. Footsteps echo soft, seductive. Leela emerges from her room, nightgown clinging like mist, her hair unbound in raven waves. "It is done," she asks, her voice a silken noose. He nods, pulling her into the alcove where ancestral suits of armor stand sentinel, their visors empty as graves. Their embrace is fevered, hands roaming like thieves in the night, lips crashing, bodies pressing against cold stone. By dawn, he gasps, "We flee. The tide will carry us south." But Blackthorn stirs. A floorboard creaks in the bridal room. Eliza stirs, her dreams fevered. Visions of serpents coiling through wedding cakes, of Theodore's face melting into a skull. She rises, parched, and calls for water. Mrs. Grimshaw, roused from her attic cot, brings a pitcher, untouched by tainted hands. Eliza drinks deeply, the coolness quenching the fire in her throat. For now, Has-Exene clock strikes one, thunder rumbles, a woman's muffled gasp. The night deepens. Listener. The poison creeps like ivy through Eliza's blood, subtle at first, a cramp in the gut, a flutter in the chest. Theodore and Leela plot in whispers, horses saddled at the stables, a skiff hidden in the cove, gold sewn into hems. But fate, that capricious crone, has her own designs. A wind howls, extinguishing candles. In the dark, secrets breed, and as the hours bleed toward morning, the first blood of betrayal spills, not from a vein, but from a crack in the lover's resolve. For Eliza, in her delirium, has overheard a name, Leela. The web tightens. The manor groans like a beast awakening. Will the dawn bring flight, or the noose of justice? Hold your breath, for the venom has only begun to bite. Dawn bleeds over the horizon, not with gold, but with the sickly pallor of lead. Blackthorn Manor slumbers under its weight, the storm spent, but leaving puddles that mirror the sky's sullen eye. In the bridal chamber, Eliza lies abed, her skin waxen, beads of sweat purling on her brow like tears of accusation. The poison works its insidious art, aconite numbing her limbs, resin twisting her innards like a hangman's knot. She stirs, a moan escaping, lips cracked and dry. "Theodore, water," her voice is a thread fraying. Across the hall, the lovers entwine in Leela's chamber, the air thick with the musk of desperation and desire. Silk sheets tangle like conspirators, their bodies a map of forbidden territories explored in haste. Theodore's whispers are fevered prayers. The skiff waits. By noon, the cliffs will hide our trail. Leela's nails rake his back, drawing thin lines of blood, marks of possession or warning. And Eliza. She murmurs, her green eyes gleaming in the half-light. He hesitates, the first fracture in his resolve. She fades, like mist. But doubt flickers, a shadow in his gut. Is it guilt, or the echo of Blackwood curses where every ambition sours to ash? A knock shatters the idyll, sharp, insistent. Mrs. Grimshaw's voice, gravelly with sleep, "Sir, Madam calls for you. She's poorly." Theodore freezes, his heart slamming like a gavel. Leela releases him, her touch lingering like a brand. "Go, play the devoted husband. I will ready the horses." He dresses in haste, buttons fumbling, and slips into the corridor. The manor feels alive now, walls breathing with malice, portraits' eyes narrowing in judgment. Eliza's room is a sepulchre of faded opulence, velvet drapes heavy as shrouds, a fireplace cold and accusing. She lies propped on pillows, her nightgown damp, eyes fever bright. "Theodore," she rasps, clutching his hand, her grip weak, but fingers cold as the grave. "A dream, or did I hear Leela's name on your lips?" In the night, his blood ices. He forces a smile, stroking her hair, strands like spun moonlight, soon to be dust. "Delirium, my love." The wine was strong, but her gaze pierces, sharpened by pain. "Promise me you love only me." The word promise hangs, a noose of vows renewed. "I do." He lies, the falsehood bitter as bile. He administers the tonic, another dose masked in laudanum to hasten the end. She sips, trusting, her throat working convulsively. As she drifts back to uneasy slumber, Theodore flees to the stables, where Leela waits, cloaked in wool, saddlebags stuffed with pilfered jewels and maps. The horses stamp, steam rising from flanks like ghosts from the ground. She suspects, he confesses, mounting up. Leela's laugh is a whip-crack. Let her. The sea devours secrets. They ride out at a canter, hooves churning mud, the cliffs rising like jagged teeth. The cove below is a scar in the earth, waves gnashing white foam. The skiff bobs, a dark beetle on the swell, but Blackthorn awakens to horror. Mrs. Grimshaw, entering with fresh linens, finds Eliza seized, body arching in agony, froth at her lips like sea spume. Poison! The cook cries, her voice echoing through the halls like a banshee's wail. Servants converge, lanterns bobbing like willow, the wisps. Reginald, roused from his guest room, bursts in. Face a shen! Fetch the doctor! And Theodore, where is the blighter? A groom stammers, roared out with Miss Voss, sir. At first light, suspicion blooms, toxic as nightshade. Reginald kneels by Eliza, her pulse fluttering like a moth in a jar. Hold on, cousin. We'll have justice. Her eyes flutter open, glazing with visioned serpents in the chalice, lovers fleeing under storm clouds. Theodore, Leela vows broken. She gasps, then stills, the room falling silent save for the rain's dirge. Word spreads like fever, the bride dead on her wedding morn, the groom vanished with the dark-eyed cousin. Land's End buzzes, telegraphs click to London, constables rouse from pubs. A manhunt ignites. Hounds baying on the moors, ships patrolling the coast. Theodore and Leela reach the cove, the skiff creaking under their weight. Salt spray stings like accusations as they row into the chop. Free. Leela exults, her hair whipping like Medusa's coils. But Theodore glances back, the manor a silhouette against the dawn, smoke curling from chimneys like fingers pointing. Guilt gnaws, a rat in his belly. What have we done? He mutters. Leela's hand on his thigh is iron. What lovers must. The sea turns treacherous, currents like grasping hands, fog rolling in thick as deceit. They spot sails, revenue cutters, black holes slicing the mist. They know. Theodore hisses shipping oars. Leela scans the horizon, her face a mask of calculation. Then we fight, or sink. But the gods of the deep have turned. A rogue wave rears, green and monstrous, smashing the skiff like matchwood. They plunge into the icy embrace, salt-burning lungs, kelp-tangling limbs like the dead's fingers. Theodore surfaces, gasping, Leela's dark head bobbing nearby. "Swim for the rocks!" she cries. They claw toward jagged outcrops, barnacle-crusted, teeth-gnashing foam. Theodore reaches first, hauling Leela up, her body slick, shivering, alive with feral grace. They collapse in a cave mouth, waves thundering outside like an enraged heart. In the gloom, lit by bioluminescent fungi, glowing like corpse lights, they cling. The gold, lost. He laments, sodden pockets empty. Leela's eyes flash. We are the treasure. Or were you wed to wealth alone? Her kiss is salt and survival, reigniting the fire. But in the depths of the cave, echoes stir. Whispers from the stone, tales of smugglers who fled here, only to starve in darkness. Hours pass or days, the cave a womb of stone, dripping condensation like tears. Hunger gnaws, thirst parches. They forage limpets pried from rocks, bitter as regret, rainwater pooled in hollows, tasting of minerals and madness. Leela weaves tales to stave off despair. Stories of her Dartmoor kin, witches who brood love philters from mandrake screams. We are not cursed, she insists, tracing runes on his palm with a sharpened shell. We are reborn. But Theodore unravels, visions of Eliza's face in the waves, her lips mouthing betrayer. I poisoned her. He confesses in the fever dark. For you. But was it worth the soul? Leela's response is a blade, sells her for the weak. We have each other, yet doubt festers. Outside, the storm renews, lightning etching their silhouettes on dripping walls. Footsteps crunch, boots on shingle. Voices blackward! Voss, surrender! Constables. Lanterns sweeping like searchlights from hell. Theodore grabs a loose rock, Leela a shard of shell. Primitive weapons against the law's iron. They lunge from the shadows, a frenzy of flailing limbs and curses. A shot cracks, echoing like doom. Theodore crumples, blood blooming on his shirt like a bridal rose. Leela screams, feral, slashing at throats until clubs descend, stars exploding in her skull. Darkness claims them. When light returns, it is the harsh glare of irons and inquisition. Chained in Penzance Gaol, they face the magistrate, Reginald elevated by scandal to avenger. You slew her for this? He spits, gesturing between them. Eliza's body lies in the chapel crypt, autopsy revealing the toxins aconite in the wine, ricin in the sauce. Confessions wrung in the cave's chill seal their fate. Theodore hangs his head broken. Leela smiles, a serpent's grin. Love is the deadliest vow. The trial is a circus broadsheets, screaming the poisoned bride, crowds baying for blood. Theodore weeps on the stand, implicating Leela as the architect. She laughs, spinning tales of his obsession, his Blackwood madness. The noose awaits, twin shadows on the gallows scaffold. As the trap drops, the crowd hushes. Two snaps, like vows severed. Bodies swing, twisting in the wind. Blackthorn's curse complete. But listener, do they rest? On fogged nights, fishermen swear they see a skiff adrift, two figures rowing eternal. Green eyes gleaming through the mist. And in the manor, Eliza's ghost wanders, veil trailing, whispering till death and beyond. Now, as the echoes of those final swings fade into the ether, let us step back from the precipice, dear seekers of the shadowed truth. For deadly vows is no mere phantasm spun from nightmare's loom. It threads through the very fabric of history, where the line between romance and ruin blurs in the ink of real ledgers and the blood of true scandals. We turn our gaze to the Victorian era, that corseted age of propriety and poison when arsenic bloomed in wallpaper and strychnine scented the boudoir. Consider the 19th century's poison panic, a tempest of paranoia sweeping Britain from the 1830s onward, fed by the rise of domestic chemistry. Apothecaries peddled rat-banes and beauty powders, laced with antimony and mercury, tools for the desperate housewife or the jilted lover. In 1857, the case of Madeleine Smith electrified Edinburgh, a Glasgow socialite accused of poisoning her paramour with arsenic-laced cocoa, her motive a tangled web of passion and propriety. Acquitted on a technicality, not proven, she fled to France, her shadow lingering as a cautionary spectre. Like Theodore, Madeleine's love was a volatile brew, turning sweet nothings to bitter ends. And oh, the weddings themselves, rituals rigid as iron, veiling the errors undercurrents of coercion and despair. The Married Women's Property Act of 1882 was a mere bandage on the wound. Brides like Eliza surrendered all to husbands who viewed them as chattel, their dowries the true vows exchanged. Folklore amplified the dread in Cornish law. The bridal wraith haunts cliffside chapels, a veiled figure foretelling doom for unions forged in haste. Blackthorn Manor draws from real estates like Pencarrow House, where smugglers hid opium in cellars, and the Blackwood trade echoes the pilchard fisheries, where fortunes rose on salted herring but sank in shipwrecks claimed by the Grey Widow, a sea hag devouring faithless men. Leela's Moor, which heritage taps deeper veins, Dartmoors, wise women, cunning folk who brood from yarrow and henbane, their filters blurring love and lunacy. The 1735 Witchcraft Act lingered in memory, branding such women as vessels of the uncanny. Real poison rings thrived. The 1870s Lambeth poisoners, siblings who dosed hundreds for insurance payouts, their methods mirrored in Theodore's measured drops. Strychnine, imported from India via East India Company ships, was the gentleman's choice, tasteless, swift, convulsing the victim in epileptic fits, mistaken for divine judgment. Culturally, the tale resonates with Gothic novels, The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins, 1860, where bigamy and laudanum entwine, or Bronte's Wuthering Heights, with its moorland curses and vengeful brides. Arsenic Green's tinted wedding gowns for that, corpse-like pallor. Tula mode a macabre flirtation with death. Inquests revealed horrors. The 1886 Wooler poisoning, where a groom slipped antimony into his bride's brandy on their honeymoon, fleeing with her sister, echoing our lover's flight, but ending in the Tyburn tree. Folklore weaves the eerie authenticity. The hand-fasting curse of Celtic rites, where broken betrothals summoned the bean-nigh washerwoman at the ford, foretelling drownings. Theodore and Leela's sea demise nods to the Flying Dutchman legend, cursed lovers doomed to sail forever. And Eliza's ghost. She joins the litany of white ladies, spectral brides haunting estates like Muncaster Castle, where a jilted heiress poisoned her rival, her wails blending with the wind. These threads, fact and fable, lend our tale its chill authenticity. In an age when divorce was a scandal worse than murder, poison became the polite exit, a whisper where screams were silenced. Blackthorn's fog-shrouded cliffs, inspired by Land's End's real smugglers' coves, where revenuers clashed with free traders under moonless skies. The raven at the steeple, Odin's messengers, harbingers in Norse-influenced Cornish myth, croaking doom over unholy unions. Yet beneath the history lurks the human pulse, universal fears of betrayal, amplified by empire's hypocrisies. Victoria's reign, the era of progress, hid workhouses brimming with forsaken wives and asylums stuffed with hysterical lovers. Our story, then, is a mirror, distorted, fogged, but reflecting truths we'd rather drown. As we emerge from this contextual crypt, feel the weight. These are not just ghosts of ink and legend, but echoes of bones under the floorboards waiting to creak. And now, my haunted acolytes, we delve deeper still, not into the marrow of the tale, but into its blackened heart, where symbols fester and psychology uncoils like adders in the psyche's underbrush. Deadly Vows is no simple chronicle of crime. It is a labyrinth of the soul, mapping the terrain where love transmutes to lethality and human frailty dons the mask of monstrosity. Let us dissect, layer by venomous layer, the thematic venom that courses through this narrative, connecting it to the primal fears that bind us all. Fears of abandonment, of the self's devouring shadow, of vows that chain rather than cherish. At its core pulses the symbolism of poison, not mere toxin, but the slow corrosion of integrity. Theodore's fails, Aconite's numbing kiss, Ryson's insidious grind, mirror the drip of infidelity, eroding the marital bond from within. In Jungian terms, poison embodies the anima gone feral Leela as Theodore's repressed wildness, the more witch archetype bursting from his buttoned Victorian restraint. She is not temptress alone, but projection, the forbidden feminine he poisons Eliza to possess, only to find it devours him. Eliza, conversely, symbolizes the anima pure, innocent domestic, the hearth goddess slain for the storm siren. Her lilies, emblems of Marian purity in Christian iconography, wilted to funeral white, underscoring the sacrilege of their union's desecration. Psychologically, we confront the betrayal triad, the wound of the cuckolded, seconds here, society as proxy, the thrill of the betrayer, the agony of the betrayed. Theodore's arc traces the narcissist's descent, initial grandiosity in plotting escape, crumbling to fragmentation as guilt manifests in visions of Eliza. This aligns with Freud's death drive, the compulsion to return to inorganic stasis, symbolized by the lover's plunge into the devouring deep. Leela, ever the catalyst, embodies the eros shadowed by Thanatos. Her green eyes, color of envy and absinthe, evoke the biblical serpent, tempting not to knowledge, but to annihilation. Her unyielding resolve post-betrayal, a defense against abandonment trauma, rooted perhaps in her mother's poisoned legacy, turning love to a zero-sum siege. Universally, the tale taps cultural trauma, the Victorian repression of desire, where empires civilizing, mission masked domestic barbarities. Weddings, those public spectacles of control, become battlegrounds for suppressed libidos, echoing in modern honor killings or dowry deaths, where vows enforce patriarchal chains. Deadly Vows interrogates human nature's duality. We are wired for monogamy's security, yet evolution whispers of polygamous dalliances, breeding conflict. Anthropologically, it recalls Levi-Strauss's elementary structures of kinship, where marriage cements alliances, but rupture invites chaos. Like the Blackwood curse, a metaphor for generational trauma, fortunes poisoned by ancestral greed, layer in the Gothic sublime the manner's labyrinthine halls as the mind's convolutions fog as ambiguity obscuring moral lines. The Storm, Burke's terror aesthetic, arousing pleasure through fear, mirroring our voyeuristic thrill in true crime podcasts. Chillingly, It probes uncanny, frodes unheimlich, the familiar as a wedding bliss, made strange by intrusions, poison in the punch. Elisa's ghost lingers as the return of the repressed, haunting not just the manor, but our collective unease with unresolved injustice. In a post-Me Too lens, Leela's agency subverts victimhood, yet her complicity indicts the femme fatale trope, born of male fear of female autonomy, yet empowering in its defiance. Thematically, Betrayal as alchemy, base metal of routine love transmuted to golden flight, but yielding fools dross death. It echoes Camus's absurd. Vows promise eternity, yet mortality mocks them, driving Theodore to preempt the inevitable. Culturally, it connects to global motifs, the Japanese wai-ri of jilted brides, or Haitian Vaude's low of vengeful unions, universalizing the fear that love, unchecked, ferments to violence. Intellectually ominous, it warns in pursuing the self's apotheosis, we poison the communal soul. Theodore's freedom is solipsism's trap, Leela's hunger and Oedipal devouring. Yet hope flickers, dim as cave fungi in their mutual unmaking. A perverse unity, lovers as co-conspirators in entropy, defying society's script. This resonates with existential dread. Sartre's hell is other people, but inverted. Hell is the self without the other, prompting the toxic merge. For women, Elisa's fate evokes the angel in the house. Crushed under patriarchy's boot. For men, Theodore's unraveling the peril of emotional illiteracy, bottling feelings till they explode. In broader strokes, Deadly Vows dissects trauma's inheritance. Blackwood's drowned sailors as PTSD's generational echo, Leela's witch blood a matrilineal scar. It invites reflection. Are we all groom, bride, or bridesmaid in life's fatal ceremony? The poison we brew, in words unspoken, affections poisoned by neglect, threatens to tip our own chalices. Ominously, in our digital age of ghosting and catfishing, the plot endures, vows virtual, but venom eternal. As analysis yields to unease, ponder this: the tale's symbols, veil as blindfold, see as subconscious, reveal not resolution but recursion. We emerge not enlightened, but ensnared, the narrative's tendrils coiling in our veins. For in exploring these depths, we risk awakening our own shadowed plots, the unspoken desires that, if voiced, might flee or fell us. And so, the scaffold's shadow lengthens, the newses sway like pendulums marking time's inexorable toll. Theodore Blackwood and Leela Voss, entwined in their final, fatal dance, drop into oblivion. The snap of ropes a grotesque echo of wedding bells, their bodies twisting in the salt-laced wind off Land's End. Blackthorn Manor stands sentinel, its windows blind eyes weeping rain. Eliza Hawthorne's form interred in the chapel crypt, her bridal gown folded away like a flag of surrender. The guests disperse, whispers trailing like smoke, a tragedy of passion or madness. But we, the nocturnal chroniclers, know better. This is no accident of fate, no fevered misstep, but the inevitable harvest of vows sown in poisoned soil. As the fog rolls in once more, cloaking the cliffs in its clammy embrace, the tale does not end. It metastasizes. Fishermen, hauling lobster pots under bloated moons, glimpse the skiff adrift, oars idle, figures rowing in endless circles, their laughter a gurgle of drowned mirth. Leela's green eyes pierce the mist. Beckoning, Theodore's hand extends, palm upturned, offering a phial that glints like false promise. And Eliza, she wanders the manor's halls at witching hour, veil trailing cobwebs, her steps a rustle of dry petals. Till death, she murmurs to the empty air, her touch frosting mirrors, curdling milk in the pantry. Servants flee, new owners shun the deed. Blackthorn remains a husk, haunted by the trinity of the betrayed, the betrayer, and the beguiler. What lingers, then, in the quiet after the storm? A question sharp as thorns in a bridal bucite. In the architecture of our affections, who holds the vial, the one we love or the one we fear to become? Love, that double-edged chalice, brims with nectar and nightshade. We sip at our peril, toasting not to eternity, but to the exquisite agony of its unraveling. Deadly Vows reminds us every union harbors a fracture, every glance a potential grave. We wed not just partners, but our shadows. The desires we dare not name, the hungers that howl in the breast. Feel it now, as the narrative's chill seeps into your marrow, the prickle of suspicion in a lover's smile. the metallic tang on your tongue from words unsaid. Tonight, as you turn the key in your lock, listen. Does the wind carry a whisper? A name, perhaps spoken in the dark, or the creak of floorboards under ghostly slippers. We are all heirs to Blackthorn's curse, bound in ceremonies of our own devising where I do teeters on the brink of I die. Thank you for joining me in this descent, wanderers. Until next we convene on the throne of nightmares, sleep lightly, for the vows you made in daylight may yet demand their toll in dreams. Sweet.